Casey and Amanda for the introduction. I want to thank my family for being here and my son Robert for giving us a very nice introduction, and Jeremy tipping you off about the details of how you win elections and get delegates. That's pretty important. But it looks to me like freedom is still very popular, and I'm glad of that. I think one of the candidates, I can't remember his name, but I think he dropped out of the race yesterday. In the last day, I was asked quite frequently by the media, what does that mean? And I said, well, there were 12 at one time, we're down to 3. It looks like we're cutting the field down. They follow up and they say, when you're going to quit? And I said, I thought we were just getting started. We have a revolution to fight. We have a country to change. We need to change what's going on in this country. We might as well wait. We might as well get our balanced budget before we quit this kind of stuff. There's a lot of enthusiasm, and I welcome the enthusiasm and the encouragement, because there were a few years when I would go around the country talking about the same issues, and crowds were a little smaller, and they were always polite. But the crowds now, people, when they ask about when are you going to drop out, I said, well, when nobody wants to support the cause of liberty. I said, but... we don't have a $4 million deficit in our campaign. Our numbers are growing. And the money's coming in, so I take that as a stamp of approval that there's a lot of people who care about freedom, and freedom is still popular. So we will keep going until we have victory. It is great that there's enthusiasm and so much support from the young people. There was one time in the 1960s they used to talk about the young people. They would say that if you were 20 years old and you weren't a liberal, you didn't have a heart. But they also said that if you were 40 and you didn't, and if you weren't a conservative, you didn't have a brain. But I say, why can't you have both and believe in freedom and the Constitution? Is going on, especially here in the last several years. Things have changed quietly and steadily in a positive way. Although over the last 100 years it's been pretty much downhill for the cause of the Republic. We have undermined our Republic. But the last 4 years something dramatic has happened. There was a campaign 4 years ago. There was a lot of people paying attention. There was a lot of interest. But all of a sudden something happened. Many of the things that we have been talking about and warning about, especially the Austrian economists, talking about, the danger of printing money and running up debts and doing all these things, and what would happen, we'd have a financial crisis and watch out for the housing bubble. When that came about, all of a sudden the people started saying, that's what these Austrian free market economists have been talking about. Let's talk more to them, and this is what's happening. The people are paying attention. Who would have ever dreamed that 5 or 10 years ago that we would ever make the Federal Reserve an issue in a presidential campaign? Simple, let's win the election and we'll end the Fed. Actually, next year would be an appropriate year. The Fed's been around for nearly 100 years, 1913, and they've destroyed 98% of the value of the 1913 dollar. So let's not let them do the 2% left. Let's have next year, let's have a bill to repeal the Federal Reserve Act as a celebration. going to the college campuses and talking to people, how many people now understand exactly what the monetary issue is all about. And they understand by looking at a little bit of history and why the founders warned us about the money issue and why they put into the Constitution that the government, the Congress could not print money. They could only use gold and silver as legal tender. And that's what we should do, only gold and silver. But of course, we didn't follow those rules, and by the fact that the Federal Reserve can print money and create money at will, and they buy up debt, what do the politicians do when they can accommodate the big spenders? They spend a lot of money, they run up the debt, they tax to the maximum, they borrow to the maximum, then they still don't have enough, and they have this ravenous appetite for big government. So then the Federal Reserve comes in and accommodates the big spenders, and they just print the money, and lo and behold, it destroys the value of the money. Now some people say that's difficult to understand, but you know, more and more I talk to people in 8th and 9th grade in high school, and they say that's just common sense. You print a lot of money, it's going to lose its value. But it's also the mischief that occurs. Government spending money is one issue. But there's two problems. One, they take the money from us. They may take it directly through taxation. They may put the burden on a later generation by borrowing, but they might just print the money. So it's always a burden by taking it out of the economy, and it undermines our productivity in the economy and to be able to produce wealth. But doing that is one thing, but the other half, what we really get punished is when they spend the money. I mean, what good do they come out of when they're spending all this money?